everyone. Next, we have Excorp Medical, Inc. It has developed a system for the temporary metabolic support of patients in acute liver failure in a 10-year collaboration with the leading university in liver transplantation and tissue engineering, the University of Pittsburgh, Thomas E. Starzl Transplantation Institute. So happy to welcome President and CEO Dan Miller. Welcome to the conference today, Dan. Nice to have you.
Thanks. It's good to be here. And thanks to be invited to an innovative and efficient way for the company to meet prospective investors and other allies.
Perfect. Well, the floor is yours. Call me back when you're ready for questions.
Thanks so much. So welcome, everyone. I will talk through this slide show relatively efficiently. And in order to keep the flow going, I thought we would wait for questions at the end. So as Anna says, we are the developer of a bioartificial liver system, and this has been the result of a long collaboration with the academic community at the University of Pittsburgh, but also in Asia as well. As usual with these kinds of presentations, we need a short note to investors or disclaimer. We are following the Reg D guidelines for this sort of activity, adhering as closely as possible. And further, the product are not available for sale since not yet approved by FDA. So again, as Anna says, we are in the business of providing short-term metabolic support for patients in acute liver failure. In clinical use, it will be used for liver regeneration as its principal application, and secondarily for transplantation or post-transplantation situations. It addresses a major public health problem in Asia, India, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and China, as well as the US. And we peg the global market at somewhere in approaching $50 billion for this particular opportunity. A little bit of a background on what it is that the liver is all about. It's best thought of as a biochemical factory that regulates much of the body's internal chemistry, produces all of our clotting factors and a variety of other proteins that circulate in the blood. It is at this point, in part due to the complexity, the only major organ system without an artificial replacement technology. The most significant aspect of the liver is that it has the capability to regenerate. And that is the property that we're banking on going forward. It's a hallmark of what the medical community uses as their principal patient strategy. So we have divided this group of patients into 4 different categories. These are called indications for use in the drug world. The first is hepatic injury. This is something that probably you think of first when you think of liver failure, something due to viral hepatitis or cirrhosis, drug-induced liver failure, and that sort of thing. But also, our technology is applicable in the area of the surgical treatment of liver cancer. In the US, that's principally recurrent colorectal cancer, which generally recurs in the liver and is amenable to resection. In Asia, it's a different form of cancer. It's called hepatocellular carcinoma, or HCC for short, but the same strategy applies. The third indication is metabolic stabilization. This is a number of different terms that apply to it. We're calling it on this slide cardiogenic shock. But the medical community will know this as acute cardiogenic liver injury, or ACLI. And then the fourth, and actually the largest category of patients, are those that are injured due to trauma, septic shock, and commonly called shock liver. And this is by far the largest group of patients that will come to us. We are a second generation technology. This is an area that has been approached in a number of different ways over the past 30 or 40 years. And so we've taken a lesson from the prior approaches, both commercial as well as academic. And this is the paradigm that applies to what we're doing. We use whole blood. This means that we can move blood faster through our system and shortens treatment times. We use existing hospital skill sets. So if a hospital is able to do any sort of extracorporeal blood management, such as dialysis or heart bypass procedures, they can apply our technology to these patients who are quite ill. We use primary hepatocytes to provide the metabolic properties. So as indicated earlier, this is a metabolic support for patients in acute liver failure. It's compatible with current treatment regimes, and this point is relevant because it's difficult to bring a new technology to the medical community and then tell them, well, you can't do something you've been doing for your entire career. We don't do that. They can continue to practice exactly the way they would in the past. And this is largely because these patients are being managed symptomatically. So physicians are making decisions, therapeutic decisions, every couple of hours with this group of patients. Reduced cost of care, we expect our patients to leave the ICU and generally hospital and have shorter hospital stays. The treatment scheme looks like this. We have a single pass blood loop. We withdraw blood from a patient using a single pump. We have the ability to add heparin if necessary, although in many of our patients it's not. We condition the blood to bring it up to arterial features in terms of both temperature and oxygen concentration and pH. The blood then passes through a bioreactor and then returns to the patient. We process blood at 300 milliliters a minute, which is comparable to unassisted kidney dialysis, and this is well tolerated by our patients. So the project status is shown on slide 8. We have completed FDA phases 1, 2A, and 2B at the University of Pittsburgh. The FDA allowed us to combine all three of those different categories of patients in one. So they've been very supportive of what we're trying to do. They have also published the detailed guidelines on manufacturing and clinical trials going forward. So we know exactly what the regulatory path will look like in the US and for that matter, elsewhere. We've established the proof of principle and with our human clinical data, numbers of publications and presentations internationally. One of the advantages of getting this far with FDA is that we know exactly what our cost factors are, so we also know what our gross margins are going to be. But from a proprietary standpoint, we have issued U.S. patents, which will preclude direct competition anytime soon. We have an extensive range of trade secrets, which are quite important in Asia, much more so than a patent would be. In the U.S., our patients are eligible for orphan drug designation, which we have applied for and received, and which gives us a 12-year post-market approval exclusivity in the U.S. This is a slide which I won't spend a lot of time on, other than to show that the criteria for achieving what we've achieved are complex. We have a number of different customers that pertain to the technology and the product as it goes forward. We have the regulators in the form of the FDA, but also insurance companies and other payment actors in our space. And then can we actually make the product and make a profit? So the Venn diagram shows this tiny little circle at the center, and we believe we are squarely at that point. So our business model comprises the leading hospitals in each territory. We offer the product as a lease, and that makes it possible for us to control our cash flow much better than we would otherwise. The revenue assumption is based on the consumption of one single-use bioreactor per patient treatment. We have established our presence internationally. This is a little bit of an advanced look at where we're going to be. Our headquarters company will be in Singapore, and then we have established wholly owned subsidiaries. All of the blue dots are indicative of our presentation, our presence in these areas. So the operational timeline, once we complete this current round of investment, goes something like this. Because we're getting a running start based on our FDA work, the first step will be largely administrative. 90 days to complete the restructuring, the acquisition of the U.S. company by a special purpose entity in Singapore, the necessary preliminaries to filing an F1, which we think we can complete within 90 days. For the next 9 months, we will spend polishing the program, adding to the board of directors, adding key staff, establishing contracts with our hospitals that we will ally with in primarily Malaysia and Singapore. We'll also conduct something called a crossover round or Dutch auction to strengthen the shareholder base. And this will provide an opportunity for our existing shareholders, both old and new, to retrieve at least some of their investment, and for us to bring in some name brand investors, which will principally be family offices and sovereign wealth funds in the Asia sector. We think we can complete that again in 365 days, at the 12-month point, and then wait for market conditions to tell us when we can actually go. Our first revenue is at the 18-month mark post-investment. Brief look at our revenue forecast. This is based on, again, one bioreactor per patient treatment. We know how many patients we have, and we know roughly how many beds are available in our target markets. So that will give us a ground up or grassroots estimate of how to roll out the product. I included the actual number of procedures here to show that we actually generate a fair amount of revenue from each of these procedures, and yet our pricing is still at 1/10 of the cost of a liver transplant in each territory. So we're well within the parameters that healthcare economists would look at as far as pricing. And we know, of course, as I indicated earlier, what our profitability will be. Taking those numbers, we can sketch out operating projections over the following 5 years. First 3 years are actual investments and actual numbers from our program. The last 2 years are industry standard ratios, so give us all an idea of what this program could look like if we pursue it aggressively. We are the first mover in this space, and we intend to take advantage of that in every way possible. There will be aggressive branding in Asia, which is a particularly potent competitive strategy in that part of the world. And with that, I'll try to answer any questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Dan. Okay, jumping into some questions. Let's start off with Nevaeh. Of the 4 studies or categories completed to date, what was the size and duration?
So you have to include our animal studies in that. We did an extensive animal preclinical program to look at what the biochemical and the metabolic reactions of the patient would be, and that there was enough data in that to be statistically significant. So we have solid conclusions at the preclinical level. In terms of human patients, we have enrolled 5 patients and completed 7 independent procedures with these patients. The 5 patients had completely different indications and clinical status, so they gave us a good sense of the representative nature of the patients that we'd be treating. Treatment periods are 12 hours long, and so we were able to see what adverse events might occur with these patients who are incredibly ill. They showed the same biochemical benefit that the animal subjects did as well. So we have a lot of confidence that the technology is doing what it's supposed to do. Taking, at the risk of going a little bit further here, we do have enough data to give a statistical plan for a phase 3 trial in the US. We're looking at 150 patients. Roughly, the endpoint will be survival advantage at 30 days over untreated patients. We're because of the way the animals reacted and our initial human patients, we're pretty confident that that's going to be a good number. And so given that, we can actually cost out the human trial with some precision. The important part of this is that the way, as I indicated earlier, the way these patients are managed is through symptomatic response to symptomatic changes in the patient. This means that every patient is its own clinical trial. So we had to convince FDA to do this in a longitudinal manner, and the doctors also want to know what the midpoint markers or surrogate markers might be during the trial, and we have a good range of parameters, that objective parameters in that area that the physicians will use to decide how the patients are doing.
Perfect. And Larry asks, with regard to the group with multiple organ failure, are you still seeing regeneration?
Yes. Yes.
And Bill asks, has dialysis been made a part of your technology?
It could be. Our extracorporeal volume is low, and so that if a hospital wanted to chain in sequence chain a dialysis either before or after our procedure, they could certainly do that. Our experience, this is an example of something that'll come out of much more out of the phase 3 trial. Our experience suggests that because of the short duration of the treatment, as I said, 12 hours, that it may be that the physician will choose to suspend dialysis. They do something called slow continuous ultrafiltration to control patient volume, the blood volume. And they may elect to suspend that until the effects of the bioartificial liver procedure are clear. But in principle, there's no reason why they can't be chained.
And Frank asks, do you have an estimated time frame to go through the regulatory path you have outlined from the FDA?
Yes. The FDA, we are in the drug regime at FDA. We are actually regulated by CBER, the Center for Biologics. So we file something called a biological license application, which includes not only the clinical trial, but also the manufacturing space. That all has to be approved in one application. We're looking at that as a 48-month process. There is a possibility that we could shave 9 months off of that because of the availability of something called a treatment IND that is available for patients who are going to die, which ours are, and with no other form of treatment. I haven't included that in the projections because it's something that we'd have to negotiate with FDA, but that would shorten the time to approval by a little bit. Total cost we see in the U.S. as being in the range of $150 million. It's obviously not included in the current investment program because of the size of it. And to take that one step further, the benefit of starting the program in Asia is that we're going to be able to validate our business model from end to end. And I think once we approach FDA, we're far less likely to have a mishap at the FDA regulatory level.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Jim asks to talk about the lease. Is it a $1 buyout at the completion? Talk about the terms. And is there any other recurring revenue like maintenance?
There will be no recurrent revenue other than the lease. In Asia, it's a capital lease. The Asian hospitals can readily get capital money for their programs. You see MRIs all over the place. So there's well-established program for that. Asia hospitals have trouble with expenses because of the lack of national healthcare schemes and this is true in all of the territories that I've mentioned. So what we'll do is set up a capital lease with the hospital and a bank. And the current terms that we're looking at is 5 years, but it would be renewable. At 5 years, we would expect to replace to renew the lease and replace our gear with more advanced versions and make other innovations in the improvements in the leasing arrangement itself.
Perfect. Also, Vince wants to know, does the company have GAAP accounting? Is the company audited? If so, who's the auditor?
So the new company will be audited by Grant Thornton in Singapore. And our accounting standard is both GAAP and IFRS.
Hayden asks, what is the IP? How's it protected?
So initially, as is common with these kinds of programs, we filed our patents right out of the gate. And so our initial patents are now expiring. They still serve as blocking patents in the sense that they provide prior art. However, we chose at a particular point in time not to renew or extend those. The reason being that in Asia, a patent is pretty useless. All it does is expose your technology and your procedures, if you have any integrity, to potential competitors, and we didn't want to do that. And subsequent to the filing of our original patents, we saw that there was an incredible amount of information that we gained from both the animal trials, which occurred after filing, and the human trials, which also occurred after filing. We elected to keep that area as a trade secret, and it is significant. What we learned how to do and how to manage patients and how to produce our product subsequent to the patent filings, original patent filings, is non-trivial. It is also going to be a non-trivial matter for a competitor to reverse engineer what we've done. And so that's the nature of the IP itself. Trade secret is going to be far more important in Asia than an actual patent would be. Having said that, we will engage an IP firm post-funding to look at this strategy with fresh eyes and see what we can do in terms of trademarking, branding, how to make a robust internal trade secret program, which relies on demonstrated confidentiality, and that will give us more confidence that our business practices will provide a significant barrier to entry.
And last question for you from Devin. He wants you to clarify, is your product medical device technology or is it biotech?
It's biotech.
Okay.
Plain and simple. We are regulated by CBER, the Center for Biologics, and as I mentioned, I think quickly in passing, so we file an IND, investigational new drug application, and ultimately, when we're approved, we will have a BLA, a biological license approval.
Perfect. And if you can give our viewers a closing statement, maybe take about a minute or so to final thoughts, Dan.
These are great questions. I think we've covered 110% of what I'd hoped to cover in the course of this conversation today. I wanted to congratulate Emerging Growth again for this innovative way to introduce a company to the investment community, and look forward to continuing interactions with Emerging Growth, which provides longer term IR and PR support for emerging companies.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we certainly hope you'll come back on our conference.
We hope to.
Okay. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Anna. Yep.
Everyone, our next company, UXIN, they had to push till July, so we'll see them next month, but we'll be back with Star Gold Corp at 11:25 Eastern.